Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga. And this time we are no longer in the Viz manga. Time of recording, while the volume has long since been released in Japan, it is only to be released time of recording next month. And, well, I'm not waiting that long, especially since you also have the following volume that's not slated to come out until, like, I think the end of this year in Japan. And considering how long it took for them to put out a translation of the volume in America, where I live, it's like, yeah, no, there's no waiting for that. So you've probably seen the cover for this video, the thumbnail, I should say, but that's as far as that'll get. And if there's any extra content in this or the following volume, I'll try to make sure to check it out. Emphasis on try. But what happened last time? Well, we have various different factions trying their best to stop the incoming meteor from crashing into the planet. Unfortunately, some of those factions are trying to get in each other's way. Zinnia going after the Devon Corporation, being the most notable one, while Ruby isn't quite sure about Zinnia or the Devon Corporation's plans. But Ruby managed to nick a scroll off of Zinnia after handing over his and Emerald's keystones for Mega Evolution. The scroll is one that will teach the move Dragon Ascent to Rayquaza. Meanwhile, with the Devon Corporation's plan, Steven is called by Professor Cosmo, who informs him of the arrival of Sapphire with the energy needed for their plan. Unfortunately, she's unable to speak for some reason. Steven, after he heads to the Moss Deep Space Center, surmises that it might be because of all the shock she's received from finding out about the meteor. Meanwhile, with Ruby's group, Amber and Blaze are after Hoopa, the Pokemon that is following Emerald, while it's revealed that a resurrected Archie and Maxie have obtained the red and blue orbs from Bill forcefully, and have returned to the Hoenn region. Red and Green, who are after whoever injured Bill and took the orbs, have followed Archie and Maxie all the way to the Hoenn region. The two pairs then engage in a Mega Evolution battle, as both Red and Green also have Keystone. But with Blaze and Amber, they managed to coax Hoopa into unleashing Kyogre and Groudon from its hoops. But they are drawn to the red and blue orbs. Blaze and Amber head off where they're going and encounter Archie and Maxie. But because of their, wildly different appearances, they're confused as to if they're actually their bosses. But Archie and Maxie take command of Kyogre and Groudon, and using the power of the orbs, turn them into their primordial form, or primal forms. It's then that Groudon pretty much buries Red and Green, while Kyogre blasts the SS Tidal, trapping it in a whirlpool. Meanwhile, back at Moss Deep, Sapphire, using her other senses, is able to detect Zinnia approaching. The two engage in battle, with Zinnia even receiving backup from the new admins of Team Aqua and Team Magma, also named Tabitha, Shelly, Matt, and Courtney. But the distraction is successful, as the rocket is launched from Moss Deep Space Center. But Zinnia is undeterred as she pursues the rocket, and Sapphire pursues her, continuing their battle on top of the hull of the ship. Meanwhile, Ruby and Emerald are trying to get to Meteor Falls to encounter Rayquaza, but that requires them getting past Primal, Groudon, and Kyogre. And, easier said than done, because let's face it, if Red and Green weren't getting through, you guys aren't either, and essentially that's what happens. Just like their color counterparts, Ruby and Emerald are decimated by Groudon and Kyogre, and with nobody left in their way, Archie and Maxie are free to do what they've set out to do. And what is that? Well, save the world, of course. Couldn't you tell from all the people they keep beating into the ground? So, everyone's on the same page, and yet no one is. What'll happen next? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, the chapters are now wildly different because I'm in a different translation. But technically we are at chapter 610 if you're going for overall. Chapter 15 if you're going in the full volume. And with everything else, this is chapter 14 of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I guess we pick up in Meteor Falls where we see the Elder, who says to herself, "Oh, sacred dragon, how shall we proceed? Please, let us know." Only for someone to drop a Pokeball at the Elder's feet. She then addresses the person saying, "Have you regained consciousness? Inheritors of Mega Evolution?" As Ruby and Emerald finally stir, Diancie and Hoopa still next to them, which I still can't get over that. And Sapphire's the only one who doesn't have a mythical Pokemon next to them? Hey, yeah. Hoopa is mythical, and Diancie is mythical. Okay, yeah. And there is one Pokemon that could be commanded by Sapphire, but I don't know if they appear in this story arc, so I think it's a mythical Pokemon. Yep. One last mythical Pokemon for this, so we'll see. Emerald looks around questioning, "What's this place?" While Ruby asks, "And you are?" The Elder hands back, Ruby's... Can you tell I wasn't quite prepared? The Pokeball containing Ruby's Swampert, explaining, "A water Pokemon who holds the Ebb-Tide Stone. You had him, yes?" He then addresses Emerald, saying, "You possess the grass Pokemon who holds the Withered Tree Stone, correct?" "What stone?" Emerald questions, "Huh? Are you talking about Sceptile?" The Elder smiles, saying, "If the fire Pokemon who holds the Fading Fire was here, wouldn't it be a wonderful cycle?" Ruby says stones, and Emerald realizes Mega Stones. As they pop on their shoes, the Elder says, "Excuse us." The Elder says, Yes. Where are we? Who are you? Right?" I mean, yeah, generally. The Elder explains, "This is the Draconid village. There is land under Meteor Falls in which we live in our hidden village. I am the Elder in charge, although everyone in the village calls me Granny." In addition, the Draconid village is the land of Mega Evolution's origin. Really? Wait, then how did it end up in the Kalos region? Unless this is where the ultimate weapon struck, and the resulting destruction caused Mega Stones to form in both areas. Emerald says, "She said the Draconid village, Ruby?" Ruby says, "Yeah. Just like Drake said. That reminds me, what happened to Drake and the others?" The Elder says, "There's no need to worry, they are safe," as we see a slumbering Ultima and Bryony, and I guess Drake? Oh no, there's a third person in the bed that we can't really see. Ruby and Emerald peek in, all smiles, as the Elder says, "Their lives are not in danger. They managed to swim ashore before collapsing. Then people from the village took them here. Hey, I guess that goes to show that you should probably stay in this shape no matter how old you are." Ruby kneels in relief as Emerald passes back as Ruby says, "I'm glad. I'm really happy to hear that. Thank you very much, Granny." The Elder then gestures to Drake asking, "Is this man Drake?" Ruby says, "Yeah." The Elder says, "When he was young, he used to come to the falls quite often." Oh, seeing the silhouette of a buff Jack Drake. Wild. Ruby says, "That reminds me, I've heard Meteor Falls is a place for learning how to use dragon Pokemon." The Elder says, "Yes, that's why we grew close to him too. Now the ones who are on Groudon and Kyogre visited this village." Ruby and Emerald say, "What?" The Elder says, "In order to accomplish their mission to save this planet, they, Archie and Maxie, came here." Ruby questions, "Archie? Maxie? That's what they called themselves?" The Elder says, "Yes." Ruby and Emerald look at each other in bewilderment as the Elder continues to explain. They'll use the two Pokemon's power of primal reversion as a plan to counteract the giant meteor. For that purpose, Primal Kyogre's Origin Pulse and Primal Groudon's Precipice Blades must be learned. And since this is a place for training, I offered this village. They were inside that cave in the deepest part of our village. Can you hear? I guess they hear something inside. A pale Emerald turns to Ruby, calling out to him, but Ruby doesn't respond. The Elder then speaks up, saying, "I'm told that 3 plans are in motion to save this planet. The first, Devon, who uses the power of science. Second, the Draconid people's method of tradition. And third, Archie and Maxie utilizing the power of nature. Science, tradition, and nature. Interesting. Science and tradition, with the limited power they could have, faced this crisis. However, each past intolerance toward the other led to confrontation. Ruby notes, I understand your point, Granny, but you said you were cooperating with the nature method. Have you given up on the tradition method to avoid the meteorite's collision? The elder says, unfortunately, the first and second methods couldn't accomplish what they wanted. Thus, they've become useless. Emerald notes, the first was science. Devin's plan failed? The elder then says, Toma, and he peeks his head up with his maul while saying, Aye. He comes over with a video device saying, there was this video in the news. The reporter says, in other news, without any prior announcements, a rocket was launched from Moss Deep Space Center. There was a big meteor uproar a few days ago. However, it is unclear if it's related to the giant meteor. Another reporter chimes in, indeed, there's more. On Route 124 of the Moss Deep coast, a rocket crashed. It is believed that this was caused by Pokémon trainers. This is a recording of an amateur cameraman during the moment of the rocket's launching. The Pokemon battle can clearly be seen on the rocket's end. Ruby says Sapphire and Emerald says Zinnia. The reporter says both girls are ascending. When you see Zinnia's Salamence just utterly decimate Sapphire's Tropius. The reporter says after taking that attack from Salamence, it looks like the Tropius and its trainer are going to fall now. Salamence is proceeding to destroy the rocket's end. That's the cause of the engine stalling and finally crashing. Emerald reaches for the video device in Tomatoa's... what is the dude's name? Tomatoma? I wanted to say Tamatoa. I'm like, this ain't Moana, man. Tomatoma's hand... As Emerald says, go back. Now Tomatoma says, don't touch it without permission. But as Emerald sees the recording, he sees Zinnia snap the dimensional shifter in half. As Emerald says, what? Zinnia destroyed was the dimensional shifter. Devin's science path has been wiped out, and this is the reason. Ruby notes, Sapphire, what happened to Sapphire, Granny? The elder shakes her head, saying, I don't know, nor do I know the whereabouts of the scroll that Zinnia carried with her. Our tradition method ended in a deadlock too. Emerald questions, wait, how many days have passed since we were defeated by Archie and Maxie? Tomatoma says, 2 days have passed since we fought and brought you here. Since we found and brought you here. Emerald says, that means the meteorite will fall in 4 days? The elder looks away, saying, there is not much time, yet Zinnia, I can't do anything with that child. She turns to them with a solemn smile, saying, you surely think Zinnia is just an evildoer. I was only trying to protect this place with all my might, but Tomatoma chimes in, saying, don't cover up for her, Granny. It was Zinnia who jumbled her personal grudges with the Lore Keeper's mission. The elder says yes, but the one who accepted Zinnia to take over Aster's role as Lore Keeper was me. The one responsible for all the turmoil that decision caused is the village elder. I get it. But it probably came from the fact that Zinnia was so close to Aster, you hoped that maybe Zinnia would understand that role and honor it a lot more than she has. But why does she have such a grudge against Devin? Did something happen? Does she believe that Aster, the Lore Keeper, not the Whismer, is the reason why Aster died? That it was Devin's fault? Ruby very sternly notes, so because of your own guilt, you think we should count on those villains who look like Archie and Maxie? Why does everyone just keep saying they look like them? I get it. Maybe with Archie, he looks very drastically different, but Maxie only looks so different. Tomatoma grows angry, saying, you watch your mouth. You don't want to watch your mouth. But the elder stops him, saying, it's okay, Tomatoma. Strictly speaking, my hopes lie in Groudon and Kyogre's strength, right? Groudon and Kyogre want to avoid this planet's destruction. That's why they are following Archie and Maxie. Ruby thinks to himself, certainly that 4 years ago Archie and Maxie captured the two Pokemon's consciousnesses, but this is not like that time. He then speaks up, saying, even if that's the case, I won't trust Archie nor Maxie. Everyone agrees, saying indeed, from how they look, they seem to be like completely different people, especially Archie. However, I won't let my guard down. Ruby says, yeah, that too. Granny, the Dragonist people's tradition path isn't completely lost. The elder questions, what do you mean by that? Ruby brandishes the scroll, saying, I mean this. Tomotomo freaks out, and the elder says, that's... And Tomotomo lunges for it, saying, return it! Ruby dodges, saying, nope. He tells the elder, dragon assent. The elder questions, did you read it? You've read the scroll? Ruby tells her, the lady you saved, Ultima, did. She read most of it. She said this could be an ancient artifact similar to technical machines that teaches the move Dragon Ascent. From here, these are my conjectures. This is a move for Rayquaza. For Rayquaza to destroy the giant meteor, it must first learn Dragon Ascent, yes? The elder simply says yes, it's just like you said. However, what do you wish to do with it? Ruby tells her, I wish to carry the Lore Keeper's mission on my shoulders. Tomotomo recoils, saying, what did he say? Ruby, thinking back to when he last rode Rayquaza, says, I am confident I can do it. I've already ridden Rayquaza once before. It not only permitted that I ride its back, but we also soared the sky together. Are those not the qualifications for a Lore Keeper? The elder looks to Tomotomo and says, sheepishly says, it wasn't me. Renza said that. Ruby then states, I have ridden Rayquaza's back and I have the scroll. All I have to do now is go see it. Isn't that right? The elder sighs and then says, really, parent and child are very similar. Ruby questions this as the elder muses, saying, that person appeared here some years ago. He came asking how to reach the sacred dragon, and now it's show me Rayquaza's whereabouts. Ruby grows a little fearful, saying, she can't be speaking of. The elder then says, in fact, the person who saved you and came to this village was him. Ah yes, if I recall right, he told me, if my son wakes up, I want you to call me. Tomotomo, please call him. A figure appears, saying, that won't be necessary. As Norman, I gotta say, the redesign makes Norman look a lot more normal. Norman appears, though, and Ruby notes, Dad, Norman says, I'll save the details for later. But for now, you'll listen to the information I've collected about Rayquaza. Ruby stands at attention, saying yes. Norman notes, the Draconid people are able to see cloud lines. These are clouds that, like planes, dragon Pokemon leave when they fly. Ruby questions, when an intersection is created by those clouds, Pokemon can stand there, right? He asks Tomotomo, and then the elder looks at him and he says, I said that. Norman then questions, when I was looking for Rayquaza before, the village elder was able to correctly guess its destination, right? The elder nods. Norman then asks, in that case, will you show us one more time, please? And Ruby reiterates very loudly, please! Tomotomo stands in their way between them and the elder, saying, hey, keep your claws away from her. The elder says, it's fine, Tomotomo. Our sacred dragon is a being that soars the skies to its heart's content. Even if we assume we can follow its cloud lines, there are no guarantees. Tomotomo then questions, you'll show them the way, Granny? The elder says, apart from Master, has the sacred dragon entrusted someone of the Draconid people to ride on its back? Tomotomo weeps into his hands, saying, everything. We'll take everything from the Draconid people. Our scroll, our sacred dragon, even the Lore Keeper's duty. The elder tells him, please stop. She then gestures to the hole in the mountain, telling everyone, the night before yesterday, I could see a long cloud line in the sky. It was unmistakably the sacred dragon's cloud line. It flew across Hoenn in that direction. Norman notes, to Johto. Oh, we're going to Johto now? Wait, what? Ruby then asks his dad, isn't that where the Pokemon Association's research building is, Dad? Norman questions, you think so too? Ruby says, there's no place Rayquaza would go but there. Norman takes in what his son is saying. But with a smile, Ruby says, let's go, Dad. Norman says, all right. there's something Birch wanted you to keep. It's an expansion cartridge for the Pokedex. Emerald, here's yours. And so they have a very Game Boy Advance looking cartridge placed into their very Game Boy Advance looking Pokedexes. But as Ruby sees the remaining one, he asks, Dad, you don't know if Sapphire is safe either? Norman shakes his head solemnly. But Emerald pats him on the back, saying, Stop worrying and just go. While you're doing that, I'll go find her. Ruby asks, You won't come with us? Emerald, with determination in his eyes, says, And how will you travel to Johto? There are only 4 days left. You don't have time to leisurely travel by sea or air, right? And if there's an emergency, it's important to bring you back at once. That's why only you and your father will be going. Ruby then says, I'm sorry, I don't think I follow. Emerald pushes forward Hoopa, saying, I'm talking about this guy. I've been thinking since we saw the news reports about why Sapphire ended, I think that's a translation error, as it should be Sapphire ended up in Moss Deep, not ended in Moss Deep. President Strone's strongest thought was, I want to deliver the device to Moss Deep, while Zinnia's was, I won't let it reach Moss Deep. Sapphire's was probably, I want to get as far away as I can from Zinnia. Hoopa, who took the thoughts, I want to be far away from Zinnia and Moss Deep, ended up sending Sapphire to Moss Deep, I think. Hoopa just claps along, like, hey, good job. Toma then looks to Hoopa, saying, it looks like it's saying, just like he said. Ruby asks his dad, it seems like the destination is influenced by thoughts and mental images. Dad, Norman tells his son, let's try it out. Can you do it, Ruby? Ruby says with confidence, of course. Dad can do it too, right? And so, Hoopa opens up a massive hoop and places it in front of Ruby and Norman. Meanwhile, in the Johto region, the thoughts find Rayquaza, help to manifest their destination. Days until the meteor collides? 4 days. Alright, now what would technically be chapter 16 in the Viz volume, we pick up in the Johto region as Hoopa's ring appears, allowing Norman and Ruby to step through. They arrive in a very decrepit-looking facility. As they look around, Ruby notes, whoa, we really arrived. We're in Johto, and at the Pokemon Association's facility. Okay, so this place pretty much got abandoned after everything went down, huh? Ruby looks around thinking to himself, the examination room where my dad took his gym leader tests, the bushes where Zinnia's Salamence attacked from, and the laboratory where Rayquaza was contained. I see that the buildings weren't restored. It'd be more accurate to call these ruins. Why? But then he notices his dad is already walking away. As Ruby follows rather sheepishly, he thinks to himself, it's been a while since I last saw that angry back. Is he against the fact that I kept the giant meteor a secret? Or against the decision I made about riding on Rayquaza's back to destroy the meteorite? Norman then speaks up, saying, Ruby? Ruby responds, yes. Without looking at his son, Norman says, you made your mother worry. Ruby then thinks to himself, so that's it. Norman tells him, I won't blame you for keeping the meteor secret or for the decision you made, but you're acting rashly. Don't forget that there are things that hurt those who are concerned about you. That is the most solid parenting advice this man has ever given. And honestly, that's just advice in general. Sometimes we do things that we think are for the good of others, but it just ends up causing more hurt than anything else. Ruby notes, yes, sir. And still without looking at his son, Norman gives a bit of a smile. They come to a barred door, as Norman says, these facilities were blockaded and then abandoned after the incident 9 years ago. If nothing has changed, the Pokemon Association won't have problems with us taking a look at our mistakes from the past. As Norman then brings out a Sawsbuck or something? Yeah. Yep, I got it right. Sawsbuck. I'm not really too familiar with that Pokemon, so I didn't think I'd get it on the first try. He commands Sawsbuck to use Horn Leech as it busts down the door. As they make their way inside, Norman tells his son, if I deem it necessary, I will use somewhat crude ways. I have the owner's permission. This place was a Sinnoh conglomerate managed by the Berlitz family. Ruby questions Berlitz. Oh, Platinum! Oh, it's nice to see her and her family. Norman notes, the Berlitz family is a long line of Pokemon research scholars. When the Pokemon Association's Capture Rayquaza project started, they were the researchers who gave their name and funded the project. So this Platinum here would be before she went on her journey, right? Because she had helped her family out with the research beforehand. Norman then says Devin and a company called Greater Mauville Holdings offered their technical cooperation. Ruby questions Devon. Norman says they had an eye on the legendary Pokemon strength and energy. They then come to a storehouse. Norman continues telling his son, according to Mrs. Yanez Berlitz, the data collected from the time Rayquaza was captured is in here. I was told that if we were to use the emergency power supply, the door would have to be wrenched open. Fortunately, I was entrusted with the key that opens it. Norman goes and accesses a computer terminal. Ruby then looks at several jars filled with shards of something. As Norman goes through the computer, he says, it seems that this is the file. But Ruby seems to take notice of something. Oh, a shred of cloth. Ruby examines it, saying, this is a Draconid-style cloth. It's burned. This must be... But Norman then chimes in saying, Ruby, watch this. As Ruby looks at the monitor, he questions, what's this? Uh-oh. I got a bad feeling about this, what we're about to see. Norman notes, somewhere near Route 47 in a historical site called the Embedded Tower. As they look at the video, we see Mr. Stone and a team of what look like commandos, some of which have Sneasel. Stone addresses the camera saying this will document the Rayquaza capture strategy. Someone calls out President Stone, but Mr. Stone continues on saying, in order to capture it, we will use a device called the Flower. Why do you have so much stuff related to the ultimate weapon? Oh, Devin. Oh, buddy. I feel like you reverse engineered a lot of the stuff you might have seen in documents, blueprints, whatever, from the ultimate weapon and tried to use it to your own ends. And I get why you did it, but still, this is powered by infinity energy and can debilitate Pokemon. By taking Rayquaza's life energy, the task of capturing it will be much easier. Suddenly, there's an explosion behind him as we see Rayquaza surging forward, knocking down Devin's men and their Pokemon. Rayquaza starts to rampage. Oh. Devin states as his men run, Rayquaza has appeared. Quick, use the flower. But Ruby calls out, wait, Dad, stop it. There, that silhouette. When they're in the ozone, you can't see it. But there's a person, right? Norman says, yeah. That person is riding on Rayquaza's back. Ruby notes, the Lawkeeper, and we see them aiming the flower. Devin says, loading, aiming. They fire. Oh wait, no. We see the light of Mega Evolution from the figure on Rayquaza's back, and Rayquaza Mega Evolves into Mega Rayquaza, which we see nothing but the silhouette of. Ruby says, that's... And then the terminal comes up with a box that says play again or close. Norman says, so far, we could see Rayquaza's silhouette changing, but is it primal reversion or mega evolution? Ruby notes, I think it's mega evolution. This figure here is stooping and look, there's something shining. That's just like Zinnia's pose when she mega evolved Salamence. Anyway, Dad, in the documents and data that were here, was this? The strategy ended with Rayquaza's capture, right? That's the case. Then the person who was riding on it was... Ruby remembers Tomo's words saying, we'll take everything from the Draconid people. While he remembers Zinnia's words saying, Devon Corporation is my enemy. Norman, still looking at the screen, notes, Ruby, I think we've got it all wrong. Ruby questions this, as Norman tells him, it seems that the place Rayquaza's the place Rayquaza inhabits here in Johto is called the Embedded Tower. Shouldn't the Embedded Tower be Rayquaza's destination? Ruby smiles, saying, yes, you're absolutely right. Let's go. We're not far from Route 47. But Norman says, wait, there's one more reason why I came here. Oh, yeah, the green orb, which isn't really an orb. Norman says this. Ruby says, that's Emerald's green orb core. So that's why that's what you were talking about before entering Hoopa's ring. Norman says, yes, the association developed a control device a device to control Rayquaza. But Rayquaza escaped before it saw completion. Professor Yanaz, I can't say that name. Yanaz said that when we heighten the orb's purity completely, its color will change to a light yellowish green one. He inserts it into a device, and as the device works on the orb, it starts to change. Ruby notes its color is changing, but suddenly there's a massive shockwaves that shakes the building. They say, "What?" And as they head out, they come out to spot something. Oh, they see several things striking into the earth. Ruby notes a bunch of small meteorites. They're falling in Johto. Oh, only for one of the meteorites to be, munched on by a figure, none other than Rayquaza. Okay, I don't think Ruby was wrong to think this is where they should have come. Then again, this is kind of Rayquaza's mission as a whole. Taking out anything that, shouldn't, but does enter into the atmosphere without its permission, I guess you could say. That's why we had that one Deoxys movie where Rayquaza was just gunning for Deoxys the entire movie. Ruby shouts, "Rayquaza, it ate the meteorite. Look, Dad." And as he brings up his Pokedex, it reads, "It flies forever through the ozone layer, consuming meteorites for sustenance. The many meteorites in its body provide energy it needs to mega-evolve." Why would that be a Pokedex entry? Ruby tells his father, "Meteorites are its food." Norman says, "This is very convenient. It saves us the trouble of going to the embedded tower. Ruby, do you have the scroll?" Ruby brandishes it, saying, "Of course." Norman says, "Rayquaza's moving. Let's follow it." And they jump onto Norman's Staraptor. There we go. Should have remembered that, but they jump onto Norman's Staraptor and rocket up to Rayquaza. But once Rayquaza catches sight of their approach, he goes to gobble them up. Oh no, it ends up going for a meteor that was almost about to hit them. Interesting. Norman says it's completely oblivious to our presence. Ruby says, "We have to get its attention. Fufu." And he brings out his cast form. He has cast form use Sunny Day, which blinds Rayquaza and leaves it susceptible to a falling meteorite that hits it. Ruby says, "This is our chance." And as they pursue the falling Rayquaza regains consciousness and grabs Ruby right off of Norman's back. Oh my god, that's kind of horrifying. Was it a feint, or is it just pissed about what Ruby did? Oh, I think it's pissed. Norman has Staraptor turn as Rayquaza starts to crush Ruby in his grip. Norman calls out, "Let go of my son." And he has Staraptor use Final Gambit. Staraptor smashes into Rayquaza. But I can't tell if Rayquaza is hitting Staraptor with its tail or Staraptor ran into Rayquaza's tail. But Ruby weakly says, "Wait, Dad." He unfurls the scroll and shows it to Rayquaza. He says, "Please, do you mind looking over here? Do you understand? Haven't you desired this for yourself? To acquire this ability? To manifest your full strength?" Rayquaza goes from being shocked to looking a little pissed. But the scroll begins to shine. Norman says, "The scroll, scripture is shining." Oh, and then the script on the scroll begins to fall away. Much to Ruby's shock, he says, "It disappeared. Is my job finished?" Only for Rayquaza to continue to crush him in his grasp. Norman calls out for his son, and then holds up the green orb saying, "Rayquaza, heed my command." But Ruby says, "Dad, contact Emerald so Hoopa will take us back. If we do it now, Rayquaza will return to Hoenn with us." Norman is shocked as Ruby says, "Becoming friends with Rayquaza can wait." It seems the huge meteorite is heading straight for a solitary island on Route 131. I heard it from Mr. Steven. Together with Sapphire, we'll face the meteorite in that solitary island sky. Okay, kid. You're determined to do this. Ruby plays things fast and loose by his own whims and wishes, so see how this goes. Alright, picking up when what would be technically the 17th chapter, we see Brandon of the Hoenn Battle Frontier, and he's on a call with Palmer. Says, "Hey." Brandon says, "Hey, Palmer, where are you now? Johto or Sinnoh?" Palmer says, "I'm in Sinnoh. It's been a while since I could spend some time at home with my family. I was watching a recorded comedy program from Johto with my son. Okay, so these events are... Gotta look at my little timeline here. Oh, only 2 years before Diamond and Pearl and Platinum take their little adventure. Interesting. It's wild to have had the stuff with X and Y, considering that it's so many years down the line from where we're at just now in here. Thank you to everyone who has helped me understand the timeline here, because, man, it jumps around a lot more than I thought it would. And especially with the remake content, it's just like, okay, gotta go back to here, now go forward here, now back here, forward here. But with what ZA is doing, I really hope they adapt that in the Pokemon Adventures manga, because that is moving forward the timeline in interesting ways, especially if you see who the Pokemon professor in that game is. It's like, why are you here? Where's Sycamore? It's like, I have a lot of questions, which is the biggest downside, that nothing was really done in the readaptation or the remake of Diamond and Pearl, because y'all dropped the ball hard on that. No content whatsoever was really changed, really, in terms of the story. Not even an extra little side story. Like, please correct me if I'm wrong, because the more I hear about the remake games, the more I'm like, man, y'all didn't want to do nothing. I get it. You had the content for Legends Arceus, but man, that's such a bummer. But I hope to see how things go once we return to the Kalos region. But right now, Hoenn, maybe one day we'll return to Sinnoh. Palmer says, but what's on your mind? Is there anything I can do for you? Brendan says, stay with your family. That's the most important thing for now. Palmer has a very solemn look on his face. Dang. And then you have a young Pearl in the background saying, Dad, we're going to practice our Manzai. Palmer says, hold on. Today and tomorrow you'll be staying indoors. Pearl says, what? Why's that? Palmer then says, Brandon, everything okay over there? With my partners here. You know the rocket from Moss Deep that crashed not long ago? Palmer says, yeah. Brandon says, well, there were some suspicious guys prowling around the sea, so we battled them. Oh, right now they're under control. Oh, snap. And you see Matt, Courtney, Shelly, and Tabitha all taken care of. The names had to slowly come to me. It looks like Nolan's Mawile took care of Tabitha. He got Annabelle's Raikou looming over Shelly, Tucker to the side with his Salamence, Spencer with his Crobat. Greta seems to be picking up Courtney. You got Lucy's, Seviper holding up Matt. I think that's everyone. Annabelle says, I see, so that's how it is. Well, Shelly yells at Tabitha, you have such a big mouth. And Tabitha says, I'm not good at bearing pain. What did you want me to do? Well, Greta's just manhandling Courtney, saying, now tell us where's Zinnia? Well, Courtney just says, I don't know. Matt says, we already told you, we don't know. Only for someone to call out, Annabelle, Annabelle. Annabelle looks around at Lucy saying, did you call me? Lucy says, no. Oh, it's Emerald through one of Hoopa's rings, shouting, up here, Annabelle, it's me. Annabelle says, Emerald? What in the world? Emerald says, there's no time to explain. Where's Sapphire? Nolan says, Sapphire, the Pokedex holder? Tucker says, you haven't seen her. Emerald says, oh, I see. Okay, bye. And he just closes the ring as Annabelle says, hey. Emerald tells Hoopa, she wasn't where the rocket fell. Let's check the Moss Deep Space Center next. I'm counting on you, Hoopa. And Emerald thinks real hard. Sapphire. Space Center, Sapphire, Space Center, Sapphire. And so, Hoopa opens the ring. Tomotomo says, did it connect? And Emerald says, huh? Yep, huh? Where the heck is this? As we see a secret base with Arun? Arun? Who's Arun? Hold on. Arun. Non-player character in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. He is an expert on super secret bases. He is the only character in the games to have a training class secret base expert. Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't really deal with that game, so I wouldn't really know. Interesting. But he seems to be reaching into his tent in his super secret base, and he brandishes a Pokeball saying, "Hey, this is your Tropius. I went to Four Tree City's Pokemon Center and it recovered there." We see Sapphire trying to get up as Arun says, "Hey girl, take it easy. Even if Tropius protected you, you hit the water really hard. My name's Arun. I'm 25 years old, hailing from Unova." Ooh, Unova. Interesting. Is that in the game too? Or yeah, okay, apparently he says that in the game. Interesting, okay. "And I travel around the world to share the virtues of secret bases." We're in a super secret base located on Route 120. And look, bringing a young girl back to a super secret location is a little dubious. Oh, I see hold on. I see a Flygon. Love me a Flygon. It was created by a young boy under my guidance. Wally. It has to be Wally, right? A Flygon? Wally? It makes sense. Or maybe I just want Wally to be here. "We wanted to move out. When I was helping him, I saw you fall out of the sky. You were lucky we were there, or you could have..." Suddenly, he hears a commotion. Aaron turns saying, "What's that noise?" And as Sapphire hears it too, she thinks to herself, "That voice!" As she comes out of the tent, she hears Emerald shouting at Hoopa saying, "You were supposed to link us to Musty's Space Center. Don't give me that. That's exactly what I did, Face." But Tomotomo says, "Hey," as he spots Sapphire. Emerald and Hoopa turn, and he says, "Sir." Oh, only for there to be a rumbling in the cave. Okay, what was the location they're at again? Meteor Village. Meteor Falls. Meteor Cave? There's a rumbling. It's coming. He turned with Tomotomo saying, "Huh?" As suddenly, Primal Kyogre and Primal Groudon come bursting out of the nearby waterway. Archie and Maxie land, with Maxie saying, "We finally mastered them. Precipice Blades." Archie says, "An Origin Pulse." "What's that? Think we can use it to test one more shot?" Tomotomo says, "What are you saying? Oh, are they going to try to attack Hoopa?" "Ah, crap, yeah. Hoopa." It's just like, "Oh, you want to have a go, huh?" And rushes in, striking at Primal Groudon and Kyogre. Emerald saying, "Stop, Hoopa." Oh, but with all the commotion going on, we see Rayquaza taking Norman and Ruby. Why is it still holding Ruby like that? Back through Hoopa's ring. Norman is saying, "Are you alright, Ruby?" Ruby says, "Yeah, thanks to Rayquaza. Thanks to this, Rayquaza hasn't crushed me yet." And he's flying toward the ring, he says, holding the Emerald Orb. But as they near Hoopa's ring, Rayquaza catches sight of what's going on inside. Oh god. And it gets angry, like, "You kids at it again?" Oh no. It is like the worst string of things that could possibly happen. Norman is flung off, hits his head pretty hard. Now, Ruby calls out, "Dad!" as Rayquaza fires a blast in through the ring, past Hoopa, cutting off Groudon and Kyogre, which catches the attention of them and Archie and Maxie, as they see Rayquaza looming through the hole. Emerald says, "Rayquaza!" Tomotomo says, "The Sacred Dragon!" The elder tells Hoopa, "This is not good. At this rate, a battle will start. We must find a way to appease its rage." They say, "Here it comes." And Hoopa, panicking, uh-oh. I just realized what it did. Hoopa takes the ring to the lab where Rayquaza is, and then points it towards the ring where Sapphire and the secret base are. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! And Emerald's face as he watches Rayquaza just go on through, like, oh no. Suddenly, at the area of the secret base, you see a blast erupting from the cave where it's located. As you got Aaron and Sapphire on the ground, Aaron just being like, what's that? Sapphire looks to the sky where Rayquaza is, saying, "Rayquaza." Well, she thinks to herself, "Rayquaza? Over there, that's..." And she spots Ruby too. It is him. A figure appears saying, "Aaron, just now." And Sapphire seems to recognize the person. Meanwhile, up in the sky, Ruby is still in Rayquaza's grasp as he says, "That's Mount Chimney. We've returned to Hoenn." He brandishes the orb, saying, "Calm down, Rayquaza. Go to Route 131. Rayquaza looks at him and then tosses him. Oh my god, just yeet. Oh man. Rayquaza's all kinds of pissed as Ruby plummets. He thinks to himself, "Hey, is that, I think I recognize that place." No, I don't. I thought I recognized that location. Well, as he falls, Ruby thinks, it can't be. Is this the end for me? Are you saying I can't save this planet by throwing me to the ground? Sapphire, I won't be able to apologize to you, only for something to swoop him up. It's a Swablu, right? Oh, Altaria. That's my bad. And as Ruby sees it, he says, huh? And a figure on a Magnezone says, "Thank goodness, I'm just in time. It's Wally! Wally! The prodigal son has returned." Ruby says, "Wally?" It was Wally. I took a shot in the dark because I'm just like, man, are you not going to see Wally in this? Dang. Man, just like the Emerald Arc, Wally got the shaft. No, he's here. Wally says, "I was surprised when I saw Rayquaza flying from my secret base, but I quickly chased after it. Is Rayquaza's strength necessary once again? Is this related to the huge meteorite?" Ruby reluctantly says, "That's..." But Wally with a smile says, "I understand. Anyway, this time, will you allow me to lend you my strength? Let's go." And he takes off on Magnezone as Ruby calls out to him. But Wally has Magnezone use Discharge. But Rayquaza fires at Magnezone, but Magnezone dodges. Wally then commands Magnezone to use Zap Cannon. I don't know why, but I feel like that should have like a guitar riff going off when you say it. Zap Cannon. Ruby knows so strong. He's so different from what he was 4 years ago. This is where his pursuit of strength has taken him. Oh, and it seems that Rayquaza is getting a little exhausted. It's breathing heavy. Ruby smiles, saying, at this rate, Rayquaza will be unable to fight. So, Ruby has Altair move between Wally and Rayquaza, as Ruby once again brandishes the Emerald Orb. It's weird calling that the Emerald Orb. Wally is shocked by Ruby's presence between them in the fight, but Ruby says, "Thank you for your help, Wally, but I can handle this. Rayquaza, you can already Mega Evolve, right? The reason you're angry is because you lost the partner you bonded with, right? It irritates you because you couldn't use your full strength to face this huge meteor. Am I correct? What do you think? Will you bond with me? Let's take on this meteor together." Rayquaza eyes Ruby, rushes forward. I love how you can even see Altair looking like, uh-oh. And as it moves in, it simply hovers around Ruby. But then, Ruby notices the presence of someone else. As he boards onto Rayquaza, he locks eyes with Sapphire flying by on Tropius. Sapphire with a very unsure look in her eyes. Oh boy. I mean, she can't talk, so you better explain pretty good, boyo. I would not want a girl looking at me like that. Alright, and the last chapter of this video, we pick up with Ruby and Sapphire locking eyes. It kind of feels like we're about to engage in a Pokemon battle. As Ruby says, "Sapphire, I'm so glad you're alright." Sapphire, she can't really get out any words, despite struggling to. Ruby says, "Your voice won't come out?" Sapphire nods. Ruby says, "Since when? What's the cause?" But then he realizes and says, "It doesn't need to be said. It's because I hid the truth from only you. Because of that, I'm sorry." Sapphire doesn't even look at Ruby. She then grabs a little easel with a chalkboard and chalk on it. She writes something down and then shows it. In very poor letters, it reads, "That ain't important now." He then writes, "What can I do to save this planet? Is there something I can do?" Ruby calls out to Sapphire, but Sapphire writes out, "If you leave me behind again, and she notes, "absolutely won't forgive you, even if you say sorry." Ruby takes all this in, but Rayquaza seems to smell something and starts moving. Ruby calls out, "Rayquaza," but Rayquaza seems to have its attention locked onto the sky, and Ruby, he realizes what's gained its attention. Meteors, a lot of them. Ruby says, "A bunch of meteorites." Sapphire, return trophy and jump over here. Sapphire seems unsure, but Ruby says, hurry, a bunch of meteorites are falling. If your arm Rayquaza's back, you'll be safe. And as one is headed towards Sapphire, Rayquaza just pounces it right out of the sky. It's so weird to see. Ruby says, see? Rayquaza sees these meteorites as food. Not only that, with Rayquaza's move Dragon Ascent, we'll be able to save the planet from that huge meteorite. So, Sapphire, come over here. And he holds out his hand. He says, together, let's destroy this giant meteorite. Sapphire looks at Ruby, meteors hurtling their way. Ruby calls out Sapphire's name again. She closes her eyes. She recalls Tropheus and leaps, but not at Ruby's hand. Nope, just on the back of Rayquaza. Ruby seems perplexed, but Sapphire reaches out her hand and writes onto Ruby's chest. He says, all right, let's destroy that meteorite. And then she just plops on down on Rayquaza's back. And then she kind of pats Rayquaza a little bit. Ruby says, all right, first of all, we need to practice Dragon Ascent. Let's go, Sapphire. And they take off. Arun on the back of... wait, is it his Flygon? I thought Wally had a Flygon. I could have sworn Wally had a Flygon. I could have sworn Wally had a Flygon. Maybe I'm misremembering. Or maybe Arun also has a Flygon. I don't know. But Arun sees this thing. Yeah, that's youth. That's romance, right, Wally? And Wally says, yeah? Anyways, I'm relieved. It seems that Ruby is getting closer to Rayquaza's heart. Arun says, in my homeland, Unova, there's a legend about a hero who reached the heart of a dragon. Yeah. Yeah. Dragon. Oh man, I love that little bit of a tie-in. You know, the barest of tie-ins to Black and White. Wally says a hero. Aw, don't tell me we're leaving Wally behind again. Well, at least he got to do something. Suddenly, something starts... Smoke starts emanating from Wally's secret base. Arun says, what's that? Wally says, it's coming from my secret base. As suddenly, erupting out of the secret base is Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre. Oh my god, do we have time for this? We then pick up with Latios and Latias. Riding on Latias is Emerald, and riding on Latios is Diancie, who's next to Hoopa. Emerald says, Are you sure you're alright, Latios? Latias says, don't worry, Rald. I prefer her calling him M. Rald sounds weird. We are fine enough to let you fly on us, right, brother? Latios says, yes. Latias says, let's hurry. We have to catch up to Groudon and Kyogre. Even if they are not quarreling, Rayquaza could spontaneously attack. Latios says, I guess is very unsatisfied because of those two. Emerald says, but I don't think that Groudon and Kyogre could pass through the ring against Hoopa's will. I didn't think they could pass through the ring without their will. After they forced through the ring, Hoopa collapsed in a heap. Dang. Hoopa got outdone. Also, do you know their whereabouts? Latias says, yes, we can feel the energy they're emanating. Latios says they're headed to Fortree City, near Scorched Slab. And so, on the back of Groudon and Kyogre are Archie and Maxie. Well, Maxie and Archie respectively, as they confront Rayquaza and Sapphire and Ruby. Maxie says, Groudon, test your Precipice Blast on Rayquaza. While Archie says, Kyogre, hit it big time with your Origin Pulse. Ruby calls out, Archie, Maxie! And as the two Pokemon get ready, they simply look to the sky. Archie questions, what's wrong? As even Rayquaza sees it. Meteors descending from on high. Wally says, those are... And as they look to the sky, Ruby says, there were no meteorites this big until now. This won't do. It's better we do... Oh, okay, no. Archie says, this won't do. And Maxie says, it's better we divert our attention from Rayquaza to what's endangering this planet. Archie says, no objections. Here we go. Let's show him the power of nature. Now Archie says, of course. This planet has the power to protect itself. Archie calls out, hey kiddos, you're a nuisance. Get away. Ruby says, good grief. Those two sure like to have their way, huh? It's a wonder they could join forces. Sapphire is shocked, pointing at the two of them, and Ruby says, I know they're different from those we fought before. It seems they also have a method for protecting this planet. Now we also have to take part in the fight against the meteorites. Sapphire gives a very worried nod. Ruby then calls out to the two, all right, we'll move, but we'll also attack them from there. Archie says, "We know, have it your way. Let's go, Maxie." And Maxie says, "That will do, Archie." Ruby calls out, "Sapphire, are you prepared?" Sapphire gives a nod. Archie commands Primal Kyogre to use Origin Pulse. Maxie commands Primal Groudon to use Precipice Blades. And Ruby commands Rayquaza to use Dragon Ascent. Oh! Okay, and so we pick up with Green and Red. Green looming over Red saying, "Wake up. Hey, wake up." And Red, not really used to something like that, jolts up, blushing, saying, "Blue." They call her Blue. So I'm gonna call her Green, because that's what I'm used to. "Green, what's this place?" Green says, "I wonder, but..." And then they spot Amber and Blaze. Red questions, "You were the ones who helped us?" Blaze says, "Nothing of the sort." Amber says, "We were also saved by someone. We're receiving a benefit." Blaze throws up his hand saying, "But they confiscated our goods and left us empty-handed." Red looks in his pocket saying, "That means..." Green says, "They took our things too." Amber says, "In addition to that, apparently we aren't on the ground anymore. I dare say we're in the sky." Red is shocked and he looks around saying, "Blue, this place..." Oh, this was on the cover. Are they with... One of the covers kind of spoiled this for me, because there's two alternate covers. There's the cover for the volume, and an expansion that shows more, and then one that zooms out even further and revealed someone, and I just thought it was an offhanded reference, but Red says, "Green, this place, I know it. We're in Team Rocket's battleship." Oh my god, I did not think this was gonna happen. I did not expect this. The Team Rocket airship, based on from the show, and then a figure moves out, coming out of a doorway. Red says, "So it was you. What are you scheming? Return our friends." And the figure says, "I saved you, and that's how you speak to me, Red? Well, if you think about the story so far, that's only a natural reaction. Believe it or not, there wasn't an ulterior motive to taking your Pokémon. It was only supposed to prevent useless fighting when you woke up. As Giovanni, flanked by his Beedrill, plainly said, I, Giovanni, intend to avoid the crisis on this planet. Time until the meteor collides? 3 days. Oh, baby. I won't lie, if you told me Giovanni was gonna show up, I would have been like, wait, what? Even seeing that, extended cover, that's unfortunately spoiled me. But once I realized where they were, I'm like, wait a minute, I know this scene. I've looked at it on the cover. Norman got shoved to the side. Once again, Ruby is riding on Rayquaza, but this time he's with Sapphire. Their meeting back together was very uneasy, and rightfully so, and it's probably a good thing she couldn't speak. It's one of those I'm too angry and hurt to actually say anything kind of situations. I wonder if that's all there is to it, though. Is that really all there is to it? She's just so upset that she can't even say anything? Dang. And that's how you know you really messed up. Because usually she can at least lay into Ruby verbally. But yeah, now, realizing why Zinnia has such an issue with the Devon Corporation, oh, I understand. Because they didn't realize someone was on Rayquaza's back because of we used a lot of previous plot elements and stuff like that. Although, wait, is it Ruby and Sapphire riding on his back? No problem, though. I feel like we're skirting the line with a lot of things, but then again, when it came to Annabelle and Raikou, it's just kind of yeah, we kind of ignoring a lot of pre-established things there too. You can't really survive on the back of these legendaries because it kind of messes you up. So I'm kind of wondering about that, but whatever. It's too much to be dealing with at every turn. But Archie and Maxie just... even when they're helping, even when they're being controlled by a greater power, it almost feels like they're still a couple of jerks. Let's use Hoopa as target practice. Let's use Rayquaza as target practice. Screw you guys. Oh man, but I love the allusions to Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, and then Black and White. Like that stuff was great. You know, Arun just being there just to kind of reference the story in Black and White was fun. That was fun. I almost kind of wish I had been able to read the entire story in chronological order, but maybe that would have also kind of thrown things a little out of whack too. But I guess this is the furthest we see Giovanni? Probably. I think. Maybe? Yeah, I think so. Because this is the last of the remakes so far. Again, that's kind of such a bummer. And they're not really doing remakes, they're doing the Legend games apparently, so. But again, I want to see a return. Let's adapt ZA. I want to see it. Come on, manga team. I know y'all don't want to do the whole dual releases thing anymore, which is understandable. But if you can find the time, do it. Because, you know, I know that a lot of the games have like extra content and stuff like that, and that should be adapted too. Like, I want to see it from the lens of the Pokemon Adventures or Pokemon Special manga. They do it so well, and I love the connections they make. But man, knowing all this was looming in the background, because this is something that, you know, Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum's parents might have been kind of dealing with too. If it was something that was maybe still lingering in their minds and it really kind of shifted things, it would also explain why Diamond and Pearl wanted that shift to comedy, because they wanted to be able to liven people's lives up. That makes it even more important, kinda. And then with the Black and White series, and, you know, shoot, that could even be an explanation how Blake doesn't have his parents, considering how far back it all goes. I feel like this could all tie into a lot of things with the way they're going about all this, but might be neither here nor there. But hey, we're continuing to move forward. And I mean, even though they're still fighting against each other, Archie and Maxie are on the side of Ruby and Sapphire to a certain degree. And now even Giovanni showed up, and I kind of wonder, is he really going to be of any assistance here, or will he also be a hindrance? Because we're also dealing with Zinnia, and the rocket got messed up, so there's no dealing with that. And because of what Zinnia did, I don't think she should really be involved in anything going forward, because she got too much of her own personal beef in there. I fully kind of understand why her people are just like, no, you shouldn't be doing it this way. We get where you're coming from, but this is not the way. Oh man, but good stuff. I'm loving this. And there's still a while till we get to the conclusion too, because it's not even going to be finished in the next few chapters. So good stuff. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you later. Till then, take care. Bye bye.